Hi, everyone. Finally. Hi, I was trying to get on here before, and what was happening is that I don't know, it was just kept spinning. But anyway, I am here today, and I know it's a little late, guys, but I had a busy day, just actually came in. Even though I'm off from work, I still had a busy day. Let me see if I can get the lighting so you guys can see me, well, etc. But anyway, I am here today. I hope everyone had a good Monday. Today's a holiday, so many of you are off like I am. But like I told you, I am dedicated to being here. I cannot really give a time as to when I'm going to show up here on a daily basis, but I can tell you I will be here. So thank you all for joining in. Hopefully, you guys have hit that notification button because that will let you know when I'm here and I'm on live. And if you can join me, please do so. This is Lisa shedding love and light and encouraging you guys as always. So today is the topic of discussion is healing abuse so that you can evolve, which I'm going to talk from my own personal experience as I always have done so because on this channel, it's a no judgment zone here. We're not here to judge people, but to help people so that they can find ways to minimize their grief, their pain, trauma, and things associated with loss and childhood trauma. So I talk from my own personal experiences, and some of the tidbits and things you hear, information here may help you as well. So tune in, everyone. Um, Before I get started, I just want to address something here. I had a couple of men contact me um, by Facebook, and I'm associating the contact as as a catfish, catfishing, because first of all, the messages that they sent stating that they were trying to send me a friend request and they couldn't, and etc. First of all, yes, I am on Facebook, but I'm not under my last name. So, what I'm going to associate that with is people from my past trying to contact me because many of them are blocked, cut off, and deleted from my life and from all of my pages. They can see me here on YouTube, which is fine by me, but they're cut off as far as me having any affiliations with them. And my anyone who knows me know that my Facebook page is not under my last name, and I do that for specific reasons. I'm not being phony or anything. I just, so that I can talk about certain things with that. I have reasons for that. But anyway, so these messages I got, I am not interested in dating. I don't at this. Hold on, let me rephrase that. Not that I'm not interested in dating. I'm not interested in how do I say this? And befriending someone that I don't know. I don't like that, and I don't like people contacting me asking me for dates. It's because or that they want to get to know me better because I don't use my Facebook in that way, and I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable. So if you are contacting me like that, that means and you can't get in touch with me and you're asking me to send you a friend request, that's because that's a catfishing. Because anyone who knows me know that my Facebook is not under my last name. So it's probably people I've already blocked and they're using fake accounts and fake profiles to try to get to me. You see, I read everything that I can that comes my way, and I read it more than once because I'm zooming in on certain things. Like anyone saying that, oh, I tried to send you a friend request, but several times, but I can't. That means you're blocked. And that means that you're someone who I have been affiliated with in the past, and you're blocked and you're using other profiles to try to contact me. And if that's the case, I'm just not going to respond to it. Like I said, if you are a real person, I'm not interested in, for people to reach out in that way. If it's not about what we're talking about on this channel, then I'm not interested in it, because some of it was about dating and getting to know you and etc. And I don't feel comfortable with, people doing that kind of stuff. Unless, I'm on a dating profile and someone reached out, that's different. But contacted me by Facebook to say certain things, which I'm not going to get into. Just please don't do that, because I'm not going to respond to it. I will read it, but I won't respond. So anyway, let's get into this topic of discussion. When I was out and I came in about 40 minutes ago and it started getting cold, the temperatures dropped. It's like in the 20s. When I went out earlier, it wasn't. But anyway, I'm here. And so now that, excuse me, that I addressed that, I want to move on to the topic of discussion. But I'm having a little bit of a sinus thing going on. But anyway, what I want to talk about is from my personal experience and about healing abuse. And I'm going to talk about what I've gone through without getting into specific details, so that people know that, nothing was easy for me. Today is easier because I'm making better choices for my life. And I'm not spinning on a wheel as I was before. And when I say spin on a wheel, I wasn't learning lessons. Life is about lessons, and I had to really learn that life is really about lessons. And if we don't learn the lesson, that wheel is going to spin again. And when the lesson come back that second time around, it's going to be worse than ever, because it's a redundant lesson that we didn't learn. And when it comes back again, it's in a different shape and form, maybe a different situation, but the same lesson. And it's going to keep spinning around and around until we learn it. And each time that wheel spin is going to be worse than before. So I try very hard now to learn these lessons so I don't have to repeat them. One lesson in particular, when I was a child, my mother decided, I think I was at the age of 7, I was a minor, decided, she told me, this is your, she told me that she was going, I'm gonna skip that part because I don't want to give too much details about that. But what it is that she became part of an organization, a cult like organization that changed my life forever. For me, the personal experience was losers, liars, and evil manipulators. Was my personal experience with the cult like organization that I had no choice to be a part of at the tender age of 7 years old. And I had no choice but to belong, to an organization as a minor, because I was a minor child. And this was a decision that my mom made. My parents were no longer together, and this is what she did. And I was always told, as I grew up in this cult like organization, that any members that left their organization would never thrive and would always be spiritually dead and an embarrassment, and they could never have a relationship with God. I do have some notes here so that I can cover, what I wanted to cover today. Um, Years later, I found out how untrue this was. I found out how untrue. It took a long time, because in my 20s, I decided that this wasn't for me, because I had a lot of questions and the questions could not be answered. And I felt like a lot of things that was taking place, that why would God, a loving God, would God give us a choice. And I didn't see the choice in the matter. I was always told, do this. And if you don't do it, it's like a coercion. Like, if you don't do it, this is what's going to happen. When God give us a choice. And I'm not here to talk about religion today, but I'm just talking about my personal experiences. And what I had to learn, and just recently, out of all the years I've been here learning lessons, is that God give us a choice. And God is a loving God, and he give us a choice to come to him. He doesn't want to force us, you know, into a relationship with him. And I learned to build my relationship up with God when my mother passed away. I always believed in him and talked to him, but I really, really learned how to build up my relationship with him. And when I say that, trust him, because at the time of my mother's death, I had lost everything, lost all these people who were, people who were in my life who passed away, and then other people who were false friends, you know. And so God, I felt like Job in a Bible, like everything being stripped down. And I had to look at my life, because lessons that were happening, I wasn't learning them, because there were people coming into my life. And I thought these people were my friends. I trusted them. I shared things with them, etc. And these people were just takers. They're, like I always say in prior videos, people come into our life for a reason, season, or a lifetime. And I'm going to add this, and also for a lesson. And if we don't learn the lesson, maybe that person leave and then somebody else come, but it's the same lesson until we learn it. And I wasn't learning them. And just things that I had to keep going through. And this time when my mother died, there was a lot of stuff going on. I was having issues with my child. I was having issues with a relationship. I was just, people were dying all around me, death on top of death. And I started have these angry conversations with God. And I had to, but what the lesson was is that I was trying to do everything myself. I can fix it. I always, I don't know why I always thought like that, but I was always subservient to other people and thought that if somebody had some issues, I can help them fix it through my example, through this and that. I'm not God, and I had to learn to lean on God, because now I needed help and there was nobody around me when I was on my knees feeling less than zero due to lessons I haven't learned and situations that were taking place in my life. And I was letting people take advantage of me because they would prey on my generosity and sympathizing with them. And even though that was the case, I had to learn that I mattered. And it took a lot of pain. It took a lot of lessons, and it took a lot of healing, because if you don't heal, you can't learn lessons, you can't grow, you can't evolve, because if you don't learn, you're going to repeat them, and it's going to be more pain and more, grief and etc. So I had to learn these lessons. And after my mom died, I was struggling with something. And one of the things I was struggling with, and I'm going to share it here, because what I'm learning, people, is that as we speak out truths without giving, as I speak out truths without giving specific details about certain things, it's rendered powerless. All the problems and things in my life, those things are rendered powerless. And as I give the energy and transmute it to God, God takes that on. But I have to be in the upright. And what I mean by that, if I'm out here behind the scenes trying to set people up for failure, trying to hurt people, trying to do toxicity, then God is not going to answer my prayers. He's not going to hear that. He's not going to be there to help me. But as I'm sincere and I'm praying to him and I'm cultivating my relationship with him and building that up and trusting him and walking, by faith and trusting him, he's been helping me. And I've been seeing the proof time and time and time again as he create miracle situations in my life, because it's never been easy. But one thing that I struggle with a lot, people, when I talk about grief trigger moments, is that there was a situation that took place in my mom after I left the cult like organization, because actually, I'm going to be honest, I was thrown out. I'm going to be real honest here. I was thrown out because I couldn't follow the rules and regulations, because I always questioned things and things just didn't seem right when there was no specific answer to it, when things didn't make sense. So I went into modeling and I started working and I paid for modeling school. I used to model for a while until they wanted me to do something I wasn't going to do. And then that was the end of that. But when I had my son and he was about, I think about 4 or 5, and I had lived in a house and my mother was coming by. At that time, I really think she thought, because she was coming by every weekend, that I was going to come back to the cult like organization. And so she was showing up, talking to me, blah, blah. And I knew I wasn't coming back. Once I was out, that was it for me, because I started to research, and learn things and who God truly was. God is not this raging lunatic that want to kill us, because we made mistakes and browbeat us, into submission and remind us of all of our faults. Because let's be real, if that was the case, none of us would be here. And so, I knew I wasn't going back into that organization. And so she started coming every weekend, every weekend, every weekend. And I know, she wanted to be a grandmother to her son, to her grandson as well, you know. And so I allowed it. But one particular Sunday, I wasn't feeling well. And she had clothes that she had for him. She was always buying him things and, you know, which was okay. But I didn't want to be bothered. And I asked her not to come. And she told me she was coming anyway. And I didn't take kindly to that because I wasn't feeling well and I didn't want to be bothered. But I did something that, I wish I can go back in time, like Back to the Future, and change it, because it just wasn't the right way to handle that. When she came, because she lived about an hour and 15 minutes away in New York, because I'm from New York, and she didn't have a vehicle, she didn't drive, so she took the train, the bus, and she lugged all these clothes over for my son. And let me tell you what kind of Lisa I was back in the day there. And when I didn't want to be bothered, I don't care what it was, I just don't want to be bothered. I don't feel well. And, and I had my son. But she came and she rung the bell, bang at the door, and she did that for over an hour. And I wouldn't let her in. And it was one of the worst things I could have done. I should have never, handled it in that way. I know that I told her not to come and she came anyway. But the least I am today, I would let her in, and then I would just emphasize, like in the future, if I don't feel well, please don't come because blah, blah, whatever. But not letting her in and having her bang on the door for over an hour. And when I think about it today, I struggle to get over that, people. And, it's like we have to value the people in our life that we have today, because tomorrow is not promised. We are all on borrowed time. And even though my mother and I had the differences of the cult like organization, she was trying to be a grandmother to her grandchild. And I just honestly just didn't want to hear about the cult like religion when she came over, because, I have to hear about this. And she really thought I was coming back. I don't know why, because I never gave that indication, but I just didn't want to be bothered and didn't want to hear that again. But I didn't handle it in a proper way. in the way that I should. Let's say it like that. And it bothered me, for all these years because my son is an adult now, but my mom passed away in 2020. And, just telling her I'm sorry for everything because it just pushed our relationship. It put a bigger strain on it than what it was. We still talk, but she was really angry and hurt for a long time, and it wasn't until she got, into the nursing home that I started to talk with her more and visit and everything because I was really trying to change my life for the better, to try to find ways to do things differently. And none of that really happened, people, until after my mom passed away, and all these things. My dog passed away, my son moved away, all these things. And, things were just, and I was having problems, you know, with him. And it just, everything felt like the wall was closing in. And I had no, I was forced to look at my life and say, this, I got to change this for the better. But a lot of things happened because I wasn't learning lessons. And I started to do the work. I started with therapy, finding a grief therapist. And I did the work, because I come from a family who really don't believe in that, but I had to do what was best for me because I was falling apart. And I started to put the pieces together like a puzzle, little by little. And the therapist I have is very patient with me because we would just look at each other because we did a lot of, we do like Zoom meetings and I'm just staring. He's looking, you want to say anything? I didn't have anything to say. I didn't want to do the work. And I was forced and pushed into doing it because I had to look at my life and it was hard. It was difficult, to look at your life and see what's wrong with it. It's just like how we go to a PCP and get checked out, make sure our health is good. Well, our physical and mental health is important, especially our mental health as well. And I was suffering from a lot of childhood trauma and things that I didn't want to face because as I grew up, and what happens in this house stays in this house. We don't talk about this stuff. It happened, it's over with, get over it kind of attitude. And that's how I was living my life, so to speak. And but yet I wasn't realizing that living that way was affecting me because I didn't have an outlet for the pain. I was pushing it more and more down and burying it instead of dealing with issues that was affecting my life. And I learned how to do that, through therapy. I started with a pro and con list of people who were in my life who were toxic, extremely toxic, and many of them were narcissistic, and how to get them out of my life. First I had to have these conversations, these difficult ones, which wasn't easy, but I had to be strong enough to do that. In the beginning, I wasn't strong enough to do anything. Well, I could, we were in a shutdown. The good part of it is that we only could go out. To me, it was a good part because it made me look at my life and look at my situation. Um, go to the supermarket and come back home and look at all the people who were important, who were there with me, were passing away. And so I had to learn to trust God. And it took time for me to learn lessons. And I had to implement a plan to get people, to understand that this is not okay how you're treating me, the abuse of the verbal abuse, the betrayals. Well, one of the things that helped me is when I found out about the betrayals in the background. And when I started to realize that I not only are people taking advantage, but they are behind the scenes trying to set me up for failure and do all these kind of other things that they didn't know I knew about. Once I found out about these things, you know, that's when I started to really do the work. Oh no, we're not letting this happen. This is not going to keep going on. And so I started to, address these matters. It wasn't easy. One in particular where I got cursed out by someone who was supposed to be a so-called friend, who I thought was a friend, that we were like family. And, and I addressed something, and That was it for me. I'm not a type of person that's gonna engage in drama. And so the door was closed, padlock, block, cut off, and delete. And it was painful, a lot of it, to learn the things that people were doing. Then they were lying behind it. But I already have the proof, the receipts. And I'm not going to go through how I got it and etc. But I knew that these people were didn't mean me any good, and they could never be a part of my life anymore. And it made more grief. It built up the grief and the pain, and I spent many nights crying and talking to God. But as I built up my relationship with God, I start to self care and self love. Once you guys, and I'm talking about all this, guys, because once you start to self care and self love, you naturally want the best for your life. You naturally know that you are worth it. Those things will naturally start to fall into place. But the work is what the hard part is. Look, it's like looking at in a mirror and looking at all these problems in your life that you have to fix, and not having a book or a solution on how you're going to do it. And that's when I had to learn to trust God, do the work in therapy, make the pro and con list. And then I had to decide how I was going to do it. And a lot of times I stayed in prayer a lot, asking God to help me. And what I did is made some vows that I keep to this day. And as I keep those vows, God continue to help me, you know. And no, guys, it's not a celibate vow or anything like that, but vows to God that, I'm going to do certain things. And it was important that I did these things and stay on the path, because I never want to, um, when I make a vow to God, I never want to be in a situation not to keep those vows. And then as I did the work, I started to feel better. As you feel better, you do better. And the thing that was bothering me the most when my mom passed away, I asked God to help me to make my peace with it, because she's gone now. I can't communicate these things to her. I know our relationship was strained a long time, not only because of the organization she was involved in, but because of what I did. And I do wish I can go back and change that, but I have to forgive myself. And that's what my therapist has said to me. You can't go back to the past and change that. Forgive yourself so that you can move on, and that's what I do. And those who are struggling with things like this, there's some people out there who've lost a loved one, and maybe they said something or did something, and they never made it right with that loved one before they died, they passed away. Please don't beat yourself up. Learn to do the work and forgive yourself, because I struggle with that. I was watching a movie last night, War Room, and a woman was, I don't know if any of you saw that movie, but an older woman, she was helping this couple, this woman who was having a problem with her marriage with her husband. And she told her the story that even though she was helping her, it was helping her as well, because when her husband was here, because he had passed on, she they were not in a good place when he passed away, and she could never go back and make it right. So, and she asked God to help her with that. And as she changed her life for the better, God helped her, and she paid it forward. She found a way to pay it forward. And that's what I do on this channel. One of the things I do is pay it forward, because I can't go back and fix what I did in the past, but I can forgive myself, and I can be an example to others and talk about some ways how I get through these things. Some of the ways is learning to forgive yourself. And as you forgive yourself, self-care, self-love. And also to know that my mother would never, regardless of what happened, she would never, ever want me to be in a space or place where I'm depressed and in pain and hurting for the rest of my life. She wants me to enjoy my life and to move on, and I keep her memory alive through storytelling. you know on here I talk about her a lot, and I have a friend that I talk to who knew my mother, who a friend that I grew up with, and that helps too. So don't beat yourself up, and when you start doing the work, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to fall back on. You know, I did too in the beginning, but get right back up and get back on and keep going. The key factor is to never give up on yourself. You know, because we all have something as humans, you know, we all gone through some kind of trauma or pain or loss. The key factor is to keep working on ourselves, you know, healing, music. If you have pets, spending time with them, volunteer at your favorite charity, or you know, do something that's going to bring peace to you. And as you continue to do that, start with therapy. It's the first place, you know, talking to a therapist, that's an outlet for the pain as well. All these things is, you know, that you do, you're taking care of yourself little by little, step by step, one day at a time, and then you start to feel better as you stay on this road to healing. You start to feel better. It doesn't happen overnight, but as you feel better, you do better, and then you know you start to take care of yourself. Forgive yourself for anything that you did in the past that you can't go back and change, and that's what I had to learn to do. So, healing abuse is so important so that you can grow and evolve. Because if you stay stagnated in that pain and a place of trauma and depression and grief, you can't grow. And if you can't grow, you can't evolve and you can't heal the pain. And it's important. You know, we never get over the loss of the loved one, but we can get through it and keep their memory alive and go on in a way that they want us to. So that's the message today, guys, to continue to bite through, you know, and if you guys love God and you know, stay in prayer, ask God to help you. That's what I do. I couldn't do this by myself, you know, and if you have a support system, use that. You know, friends, family, a spouse, use the support system. They can't bring back a loved one. They may not even be able to change your situation, but they can be an outlet, and that outlet they can be is a listening ear, because we all need that. We need to know that someone, you know, cares. Thank you for listening. This is Lisa, always shedding love and light and encouraging you guys to keep moving forward, you know, and to heal. And that's the way we can do and you know, with this pain and minimize it. Thank you again. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll try to be back here earlier than I was tonight so that you know, and please subscribe to the channel, and that way you'll know when I'm on and you can come on as well. Hit the like button, send me comments, and thank you all for being here. I appreciate every one of you. Have a good evening, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.